The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Podcast coming to you on November 11th, 2022. How you guys doing? It is a very quiet Friday night in my house. My wife is out with a girlfriend of hers and hanging out, having dinner. My kids are asleep. So just coming here to do a little quick pod here. Not too long. Might not even go longer than 20 minutes. We'll see. I'll talk a little NBA with you guys. But before we do that, subscribe to this podcast, any podcast catcher, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Of course, my YouTube page at Earnest EJ Christian as well. I'll talk a little NBA with you guys real quick. I'll talk Lakers. The Lakers right now are 2-9. They're actually about to tip off their game tonight. As recorded, they're playing the Kings tonight. I know LeBron James is out with an injury. Anthony Davis is questionable for tonight. I think Westbrook's going to be available, of course. It's been a disaster of a start for the Lakers. Last year, obviously, was a disaster as well. And I thought, okay, well, an anomaly. A team that was not made up well of pieces and no shooters, of course. So you figure, okay, give them off season, get guys back in the fold, and we start this year, and through 11 games, nothing has changed. You still got LeBron, still got AD, you got Westbrook, and 2-9 start. Insane. Look, I didn't think they'd be a championship contender at this point. Although one has to argue that if they're going to be a team, you got to figure if in AD and LeBron James, are on the same team, you have to assume that, okay, this team has to be at least in the conversation of being a championship contender. Not a favorite, but a contender. And yet here we are now, 11 games in. And up to this point, up until tonight, healthy LeBron, healthy AD, healthy Westbrook. He can't shoot the ball, and they're still 2-9. And this title of this podcast is called Should the Lakers Trade AD? Because you look at all the options that the Lakers have. They're capped out, We keep hearing that, okay, well, they should trade Westbrook, and can they trade Westbrook? And I'm sure they probably could, but teams want more than just Westbrook. They want those draft picks. I think it was at 2027 and 2029 draft picks, because the Lakers already hoard all their picks for the rest of the decade, pretty much. And, teams want that. And teams know the Lakers are desperate at this point. Now, Russell Westbrook is also on his final year's contract, so you can say, okay, well, we're out another year, then you'll have that money, the $47 million that he's owed this year, free next year. But again, by doing that, you're also acknowledging that you're wasting the LeBron James year. LeBron James, while still great, while still good, although you definitely see deterioration because he is 37, turning 38 next month. He's probably still a top 10 player in the league, but he's definitely not the same LeBron James. And nobody fears him either. So you have to wonder, what is the priority? Because it's clear that this core right now cannot win together. It's clear, And the only way you can improve the roster is moving a major piece. That's why this title is called Should the Traders Trade AD? Because to me, you obviously can't get Westbrook off the books, off the roster right now, unless you trade draft picks. LeBron James, while you may consider trading LeBron, is on the table, I'm sure. At the same time, financially speaking, it doesn't really make sense to move LeBron anyway because, well, they say you could move LeBron, but at the same time, there's a financial incentive to keep him on the roster that goes beyond basketball. That goes, well, he can still make money for the team because he's still LeBron James and he still draws, even when the team's losing. So, again, name this episode is called Should the Lakers Trade AD? I'm not saying they should definitely do it, But that's probably the main. That's probably the one piece where you can get back players that you need in the present, and probably in the future also too. Because when healthy, let's be real here. When healthy, Anthony Davis is probably still a top 10 player. He's having a good year for the record. He's averaging 24 a game. I think it's 8 boards a game, 9 boards a game. He's still having a good year, numbers wise. But the team is really bad. It's constructed horribly. So, I think the team should at least consider the idea of trading AD. It shouldn't be off the table. And here's the part too. Also, you have to understand, like AD was supposed to be the bridge for LeBron. When LeBron got here, the idea was, okay, you bring LeBron in, AD, you trade for you get LeBron 4 years ago, you acquired AD a year later. At some point, you pass the baton. LeBron passed the baton to AD. But it seems like AD, and forget the injuries, obviously. We spoke about the injuries for a long time in this podcast. But it seems like AD kind of doesn't really want it. Like, he doesn't look like a guy that, at this point, is a leader type, is a number one guy. Now, he's a number one guy in terms of talent, but he doesn't seem like a guy that goes after, if you will. And it's quite clear that AD, as great as he is, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. I don't think he's ever matched the expectations that we all had for him. I was someone that said, I remember 6-7 years ago doing podcasts and saying that Anthony Davis on paper, talent-wise, should be the greatest power forward in history of the game. He should be the guy that when we look at Tim Duncan as the greatest power forward of all time. That's how I viewed AD. That if AD put it all together, along with the leadership stuff, he would be the greatest power forward in history of the game. And he's never really met that expectations. A lot of it, obviously, number one, because of injuries. Let's be real. The guy, death, taxes, and AD gets hurt. So let's start there. But it just seems like he doesn't want it. You watch him in LA. I don't know if it's the LeBron thing. Because I will say LeBron has, at least from where we're sitting at, he has tried to pass the baton to him. But it seems he doesn't want it. And here's the thing also with AD. His value won't get any better than it is now. As good as he is, I think it's safe to say, I think it's age 30 now, that he will not get better than he is right now. So if there's any time you can get max value for Anthony Davis, would be presently today. Today, as I sit here doing this podcast, because he's not hurt. Now, if he gets hurt, obviously, which is very, very likely, based on his career, I hate to say it, then you obviously have something else to talk about. So yes, we could sit and say move Westbrook, and yes, that's the obvious move. Yes, we could say maybe move LeBron at some point. But as I said, there's a lot more. That's a lot more complicated than people give it credit for. I think AD's the move. I think AD is the guy that, if the Lakers really want to improve, because it's clear now at this point. And look, I know LeBron and AD, they won a title in the bubble, but many people believe that it's the bubble. It was circumstantial. I think that's the piece. I think really that would probably, obviously to see what pieces they get back, but would probably extend LeBron's career a little bit longer, and also create enough pieces around the team to dramatically improve. And again, a lot of this errors that's happened here, the building of the team, or the lack of rather, is due to Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka gets full blame for this. So if I'm Lakers, I'm looking at AD as the piece to look at to move. But we'll see what happens. We keep hearing that they can do this, that, but at the end of the day, it's all about are the Lakers ready to move off this experiment, we'll call it. Because, and for the record, Westbrook off the bench now has worked. Obviously he didn't want to do it, but he's done it now. It's worked. His numbers have been great. To the point now where, according to sources now, that teams have been calling in now to talk to West about possibly trade for Westbrook at some point. But I'm sure once again, when it comes to that, the draft picks that the Lakers don't want to move off of are still on the table. And I don't think they want to move those picks. And I can't blame him, to be honest with you. I really can't. But I think AD's a move. I think the move is AD. I think the move is to move AD, get real pieces. I mean, I'm not saying to gut the entire roster, although I have to be honest with you. Like, if there's an opportunity to move off this entire experiment, and that's acknowledging that LeBron is more complicated because of the financial benefits that even when you're bad, you're still making money on LeBron James. Just being there. But if you really want to improve the team for the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, knowing that this roster here ain't working as constituted presently, you start with AD first. I think AD's the move. I think AD is the move, honestly. Another team that's been in a lot of, hell, although they improved the last couple of games, is the Brooklyn Nets. A team that started slow. I think the record now, presently, as of today, is 5-7. And they've won a few games here. This is a team that's had so much drama from the minute Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving set foot on this team. I don't know. Obviously, we've heard the Kyrie Irving stuff now with the suspension for 5 games due to sharing or promoting, what do you want to call it, a anti-Semitic documentary, which he's now apologized for. But ever since that happened, and ever since the Steve Nash firing happened, which we already forgot about that. Steve Nash got fired last week, and we kind of forgot about that because of the stuff with the with the Kyrie controversy, the Ime Udoka rumors to replace Steve Nash, which didn't happen because Jacques Vaughn now has been implemented officially as the head coach of the team. And for the record, the Nets have played well since then. The Nets have won a bunch of games since then. And the same Kyrie should be back in the next couple of games. And one have to wonder, is this team better without Kyrie Irving? One has to wonder that. Is this team really better without Kyrie Irving? I'm really curious about that. Because as I said before in the past, Kyrie Irving's a great talent. I love watching him play. One of my favorite players to watch individually play basketball. But he's not a winning player. And the sample size is just growing that. We saw what happened in Boston when he was there for the 2 years we were there and the time he missed. And when he wasn't there, the team actually was, almost went to the finals one year and actually went to the finals without him the year after he left. The one good year in the last couple of years in Brooklyn where there were minutes, there was a toenail, Kevin Durant toenail from going to the conference finals. That was when Kyrie was hurt. Remember 2 years ago, the year Milwaukee won the title and they lost in 7 to Milwaukee. Kyrie didn't play that series. He was hurt. Remember? So again, you see this large sample growing of when Kevin Durant, and Durant's doing his thing obviously, has pieces, whether it was James Harden as the second piece or other guys, not named Kyrie Irving. This team has somehow played better. So it's hard for me to say that they're better without him, but except that the sample we have here have shown otherwise that they are better without him. Now, do I want to see Kyrie back and hope to see this thing run us back one more time and see this team can improve with Kyrie on the team? Absolutely. I want to see that. I want to see it now with Jacques Vaughn's head coach especially too. Because I'm not saying Steve Nash was the blame, but Steve Nash didn't help the situation. So let's see if Jacques Vaughn can actually get this job done. But in terms of Kyrie and his return, they said it could be either this Sunday against Lakers or on Tuesday next week. I don't know. Like this team looks better. They're playing better defensively. The ball moves a lot better when Kyrie's not being there. It's fascinating. But I still want to see this team with Kyrie on the roster. I want to see that. And then and I think this return here will be the final, chance of Kyrie Irving to turn things around. Because I think the Nets are done with them. I think barring the Nets going to the finals or winning the championship this year, with Kyrie Irving being one of the reasons they get there, I think we'll see the end of Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. And I'm still not convinced that Kyrie Irving won't be in the league next year just because of the distractions and how much of a headache he really is. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Let's go to another thing here. So, one of my favorite feuds of all time, storylines all time NBA history, the Michael Jordan Isiah Thomas feud. It continues. It does continue. Isiah Thomas was quoted recently. I don't know where he said this. It might have been on a documentary or some interview he had. Because obviously, if you know the history about Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas, the Bulls and the Pistons from the late 80s, early 90s, the Pistons owned the Bulls for a couple of years. Jordan gets over the hump. Game 4 of the conference finals, the Bulls go to the hump, sweep the Pistons, and rather than shaking the Bulls' hand at the end of the game, with 8 seconds to go in the game, Isiah Thomas and the whole team walks off the court. Doesn't even greet Jordan, the Bulls, and ever since then, it's been salty. We know Isiah obviously not getting on the dream team, largely because Michael Jordan would not play unless Isiah Thomas was not on the team. So here's a quote that Isiah Thomas had here, which has now stirred up more feelings about this. This is involving The Last Dance, the documentary that came out, Michael Jordan documentary that came out over during the pandemic. He says, quote, "When I was watching The Last Dance, I'm sitting there and watching it with my family, and I'm thinking everything is good. And then this guy comes on television, he says that he hates me and he calls me an asshole. And then I proceed to watch the whole documentary about him being an asshole. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. Until I get a public apology, this beef is gonna go on for a long time. A long, long time. Because I'm from the west side of Chicago." All right. Here's my takeaway here. I am pro Isiah. You guys know that Isiah Thomas is my third favorite player in history in the NBA. It's Magic Johnson, number 1. Charles Barkley, number 2. Isiah Thomas, number 3. I am a massive Isiah Thomas fan. Now, I'm on his side on this topic. But let's keep it real. And this is me acknowledging he got screwed up the dream team. He should have been on the dream team. He was, after Magic Johnson, the best point guard in the league. In my opinion, even today, I would say after Magic Johnson, now Steph Curry, top 3-point guard the whole time. He's got to get over it, man. Michael Jordan ain't going to respect him. Michael Jordan has said publicly he hates him. So I don't know why Isiah Thomas is looking for an apology or whatever it may be. Jordan ain't going to give it to him. There's no reason Michael Jordan would apologize for him for what? For anything. Ain't going to happen. And let's be real. It wasn't like in that documentary it was just Isiah getting shit. Michael Jordan pissed off his own teammates. He pissed off Scottie Pippen. He pissed off Horace Grant in the documentary. So, at the same time, I get Isiah wanting to, he wants an apology or maybe some closure. I know he probably desires closure with Jordan. I know there's an icy relationship. We all know that. And I'm pro Isiah on this topic. You know that. But he's got to kind of get over it. He's got to kind of get over it, man, honestly. He really does. But yeah, this Jordan shit on everybody in this documentary. He shit on Jerry Krause, his own GM. He shit on his own teammates. He shit on Isiah Thomas. He shit on, this was Jordan reminding folks, that who he was, the greatest of all time, and we all acknowledge Jordan's an asshole. We all acknowledge that, and I know why Isiah is still. I know that's probably a sore spot for Isiah Thomas that he wants to get acknowledgement and closure with Jordan, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And he's got to get over it. It is what it is. Should Isiah have walked off the court the way he did in that conference finals? Probably not. Although one can argue that he only did that because that's what happened to him when the Pistons got over the Celtics in 1988 in the conference finals, and they did the same thing. But at the same time, it's got to go over it, man. It's not going to happen. If Jordan decides to send him a phone call or whatever, then, it happens. But at this point, Isiah's got to get over it, man. And I say as a guy who loves Isiah Thomas, who's on Isiah's side in this argument, but at the same time, you got to get over it, man. You just got to get over it. All right. Time before I go, like I said, keep it short today. This week is, this week or this month, I think it was like early in the week anyway, but it is the 25-year anniversary of the infamous WWF Montreal Screwjob. Of course, you guys watch wrestling. You know that is the event where at the 1997 Survivor Series, where Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels for the World WWF Championship, and Bret Hart gets screwed, allegedly, by Vince. This is probably still, years later, the most controversial we want to call it a storyline if you believe it's real, not real. Most believe it's a real thing. If you guys know the backdrop on this story, Bret Hart had signed an extension, pretty much like a 25-year contract in 1996 after considering going to WCW to stay with WWF with Vince. And then months before this event, the Survivor Series event, this is when WWF was still going through a lot of financial issues because WCW was a major competitor against them, a rival. They, he basically tells Bret that, listen, I need to get out that contract because I can't afford you. So, and I'll angle you to get a deal with WCW, which he did. And the one thing that Bret wanted was to not lose a title to Shawn Michaels. He was okay with dropping the title to anybody else but Shawn Michaels because Shawn Michaels and him had some issues backstage. And obviously there's a big brouhaha about how it happens. Bret couldn't agree to the certain demands to get it over, get the title off of him, whatever it may be. And then, of course, we saw what happened. On that night, Vince makes the Shawn Michaels puts Bret in the sharpshooter, and immediately as it happens, Vince immediately tells the guy to ring the bell, and that's that. And Bret goes apeshit. Bret spits on Vince. Bret destroys the outside of the the announcer table and all that, and it was a mess. It's still one of the greatest works or not work in the history of pro wrestling. A lot of folks still think it might be. There's some people who think it's actually a work, that it's not real. And a lot of people who spoke on this, people who were involved, people who were close to the situation, I think it was real. I think there was real anger and animosity from Bret to Vince for years. And I'm sorry if at this point, if it wasn't real, this would have gotten out a long time ago. Because there's just too many factors, too many people involved, too many people around this entire saga that not one person could have said, "Okay, no, this is a work." No, this is definitely a real thing. To me, it's still one of the greatest and most fascinating stories in the history of pro wrestling. Bret screw Bret, that kind of thing. That's what Vince says week after. But yeah, 25 years later, obviously they've patched things up since then. Obviously Bret came back to the company, got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and him and Shawn even patched things up years later. But this Montreal Screwjob to this day is still one of the all-time great, what-if stories. Is it real? Is it not real? I don't know. It's just I think it's real. I still think it's real. I think it's just way too much people involved to just have this being something that's a work. Because someone at that point, someone would have said something at that point, and I don't believe that would happen. So anyway, that'll do it for me. I'm a little tired here. Worked long day today, so I'm gonna get out of here a little bit. I'm on Twitter at EJ7 again. My YouTube page, Ernest EJ Christian on YouTube. All podcast catcher, Ernest Podcast. Until the next one, we will talk soon. And stay up. Have a good weekend, guys.